At 12:43 a.m., my phone lit up, the glow cutting through the darkness of my loft in downtown Seattle. The message read, "Sweetheart, we need to talk about Christmas. Your sister Chloe has arranged everything perfectly, and she believes it's best if you don't come." I just stared at the screen, frozen. I reread the words, as though they might shuffle themselves into something reasonable. My name is Emma Caldwell. I'm 34. And in that moment, I had just received the coldest message possible. From the very parents whose mortgage I paid off 6 months ago. Another ping followed. "Chloe says your presence might make things awkward. She's inviting some important people from her firm. Please understand." Of course, Chloe had said that. She was always the golden child, the magnetic sister who supposedly just needed more time to find her path. Even when she abandoned law school halfway through or piled up $60,000 on our parents' credit cards for so-called networking trips, they adored her. Meanwhile, I spent 15 years grinding in tech, living in thrifted jackets and jeans, funneling every dollar into savings. And when mom and dad were about to lose their lakefront home thanks to Chloe's debts and their own bad choices, who did they call? Me. Without hesitation, I wired $520,000, draining my brokerage account and selling the small rental property I had spent a decade building. They had cried into my shoulder, "We'll pay you back, Emma. You saved us. You're our rock." Now, half a year later, I was being told not to come home for Christmas, the very home I had rescued because Chloe wanted to impress her colleagues. Another text arrived. "Chloe's planning a sophisticated evening. She's blossomed into such an elegant woman." Blossomed. The same woman who once called me a control freak for asking when she'd repay the $8,000 I lent her. The same sister who branded me stingy when I refused to co-sign her 4th car loan. After she wrecked the first 3, every time I tried to hold Chloe accountable, my parents dismissed it as keeping the peace. Whenever I spoke about responsibility, they painted me as negative. I opened the safe at my desk and pulled out a slim folder they knew nothing about. 6 months earlier, when I'd saved their home, my attorney insisted on a binding contract. Desperate, my parents signed immediately. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Chloe herself. "Hey sis, hope you understand about Christmas. My boss and his wife are coming, and I really need to make a good impression. You can be sometimes, but hey, we can totally grab lunch next week." Intense, because at our last family dinner, I suggested she start repaying mom and dad instead of splurging on luxury handbags. Because I mentioned that maybe her 3rd job hop in 2 years wasn't the right time to buy another high-end SUV. I typed one word into the family group chat. "Okay." Then I called my lawyer. "Mark, sorry to wake you, but start the proceedings." "The house?" he asked, double quotes. "Yes and no, I don't want to wait until after the holidays." I could already hear Chloe in my head laughing, calling me dramatic, convincing my parents I was jealous. But this wasn't drama. It was closure. I was finished being the quiet one. After hanging up, I opened a folder on my desktop labeled Evidence, screenshots, text threads, bank statements, records of transfers from my parents' retirement account to cover Chloe's temporary cash flow issues, withdrawals from their home equity line to fund her failed ventures, and credit card bills for luxury hotels while mom begged me to cover property taxes. Another message blinked on my phone, this time from mom. "Please don't be upset, sweetie. This is so important for Chloe's career. She's finally finding her path. We'll celebrate with you later." Later, like all the other laters. The vacations I wasn't invited to because Chloe needed quality time. The Christmas mornings when my successes were ignored in favor of Chloe's latest scheme. Always being told to shrink, to step aside, because Chloe had to shine. But not this year. This time, I had leverage. Real consequences. I texted Mark again. "Send the papers first thing in the morning. And make sure they're delivered during Chloe's perfect Christmas dinner." Then, I booked a first-class ticket to the Maldives. Merry Christmas, Chloe, while she played hostess. I'd be watching the Pacific shimmer at sunrise, finally choosing myself. Something told me her flawless soiree wouldn't end as planned. On Christmas morning, my phone exploded with notifications as I sipped an oat latte in SeaTac's first-class lounge. "What is this legal notice? Call us immediately." "Emma, you can't do this. This is our home. You're insane. You're ruining everything." "Chloe," I smiled. 6 months earlier, they had signed an agreement, either buy the house from me at market value, or begin paying rent. Failure to comply meant immediate eviction. The papers simply enforced what was already written. Chloe called in a panic. My boss and his wife will be here in 4 hours. How could you do this? Mom's sobbing. Dad's losing it. Chloe, I said evenly, I'm surprised you care. Didn't you brag last month about closing a massive deal that would set you for life? That's different. You know how these things take time. Time. Like the 3 years you've lived rent-free while I covered the mortgage. Or the time you maxed out their credit cards and never paid them back. That's not fair. I was building my brand. In the background, I heard pans clattering, mom stress cooking while Dad shouted about calling their lawyer. The papers are clear, I said. 2 choices, buy the house or pay rent. I've already given you more than enough time. We can't afford either. Chloe's voice cracked. You could, I replied calmly, if you sold the Tesla, the designer handbags, and that Aspen timeshare you bought while our parents were drowning in debt. Silence, then a hiss. You've always been jealous because Mom and Dad love me more. No, Chloe, I said softly. They don't love you more. They fear you more. The tantrums, the guilt trips, the control. That ends today. A boarding announcement echoed. Listen, I have to go. My flight's boarding. You have until January 15th to buy the house or start paying rent. Otherwise, you'll need to find somewhere else to live. And then the final blow. Oh, and Chloe, about Grandma's trust fund. You might want to read the terms again. She and I had a very candid conversation last week. Her sharp intake of breath told me she understood. Our grandmother had always seen through Chloe, and after I showed her the evidence, the stealing, the manipulation, the financial drain, she finally acted. You wouldn't. I already did. Goodbye, Chloe. Enjoy your perfect Christmas. I ended the call, powered down my phone, and settled into my first-class seat. Tomorrow, Mark would deliver more than a notice, a thick folder of proof, fraudulent signatures, financial abuse, the accountant's report on how Chloe gutted our parents' retirement. This wasn't just about money. It was about breaking the cycle that turned my parents into enablers and my sister into a tyrant. They couldn't say no to her. But I could. The flight attendant offered champagne. I accepted, watching Seattle fall away beneath the clouds. On my screen, one last message glowed from Mom. Emma, please, we can work this out. Your sister needs us. She's just going through a phase. A phase. That's what they'd called it for 15 years. But phases end. This one was long overdue. I closed my eyes, picturing Chloe scrambling to explain to her boss why her polished Christmas dinner had collapsed into chaos. For once, she'd have to face reality, not the Instagram-ready illusion she lived in. Sometimes, love means letting consequences land exactly where they belong. As the plane dipped toward the Maldives, a sense of calm washed over me, something I hadn't felt in years. For the first time, I wasn't stepping in to rescue Chloe. I was protecting my family from her. 2 weeks later, I was stretched out on the sunlit deck of my private villa when my phone lit up with Grandma's name. You should see the chaos you left behind, she said, laughing softly. Chloe's perfect boss witnessed everything, the legal papers, her meltdown, all of it. That promotion she wouldn't stop bragging about. Gone. I took a slow sip of coconut water, watching the sunset smear molten gold across the turquoise horizon. How are Mom and Dad? I asked, finally waking up. Grandma replied, your father uncovered Chloe's secret credit card statements, the ones showing she's been pulling cash advances in their names. He's furious. First time I've ever seen him like that. Progress, I suppose. My father had never directed true anger at Chloe before. Disappointment, yes, but not this. That's why I called. Grandma continued, her tone softening. They want a meeting. All of them. Even Chloe. I think you should come home. I wasn't surprised. My 3-week escape was ending. Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow. Tell them to meet me at my place the day after. And Grandma. Yes, sweetheart. Thank you for standing with me. Oh, Emma, she said warmly. I've waited 15 years for someone to stand up to Hurricane Chloe. 2 days later, I unlocked the door to my downtown Seattle condo. They were already waiting. Mom looked drained. Dad seemed somehow smaller, and Chloe was unrecognizable. The designer heels and flawless blowout were gone. She sat on my couch in jeans and a plain sweater, her face scrubbed bare, stripped of the armor she always wore. I set down my keys before anyone could speak. I have something to show you. Opening my laptop, I revealed 3 documents, a property listing, a business plan, and a brochure. Option 1. I said, evenly. A smaller house well within your budget if you sell most of your current furniture and Chloe's luxury items for the down payment. I clicked to the next slide. Option 2. Dad, remember the accounting firm you always dreamed of? Here's a complete business plan to make it happen. Finally, I revealed the third. Option 3. Chloe, this is a treatment center specializing in financial therapy and compulsive spending. They also have a program for chronic liars. Chloe opened her mouth to argue. But Dad raised his hand, silencing her for the first time in my life. I'll let your sister finish. You can't keep the house unless you follow these terms, I told them. This isn't punishment, it's a chance to rebuild, the right way this time. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Emma, when we found those cards, Chloe opened in our names. We could face charges. We've been so blind. Our retirement is gone. We've been such fools, Dad said, his voice cracking in a way I had never heard before. I've already spoken to the credit card companies, I assured them. They won't press charges if Chloe enters the program and agrees to a repayment plan. Grandma and I will help with the initial costs. Chloe rose slowly, her face buckling under the truth. Why are you helping me after everything I've done? I looked at her. For the first time, I didn't see the hurricane. I saw the little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. Because you're my sister. And because I believe that version of you still exists. And she's worth saving. Dad cleared his throat. We've chosen the smaller house. Your mother and I need a fresh start. Tears spilled down Chloe's cheeks. And me. I'll do the program. I don't want to be this person anymore. Watching my boss's face when he saw those papers, seeing what I did to our family, I finally saw myself through someone else's eyes. It won't be easy, I warned. No phones, no credit cards, no outside money for a month. Full financial transparency. I know, she whispered. I'm scared, but I'm more scared of losing my family. Mom stood, tears flowing, and wrapped her arms around me. No conditions, no guilt trips, just love. We don't deserve you, Emma. This isn't about deserving, I said softly. It's about healing. For the next hour, we mapped out a plan. Dad would finally launch his accounting firm, funded with a properly documented loan from me. Mom agreed to sell her designer collection to cover the down payment on the new house. Chloe would enter treatment next week, as everyone prepared to leave. Chloe lingered. Did Grandma really change the trust fund? I smiled faintly. No, but you needed to understand what was at stake. The money will be there when you're ready after treatment, after making amends. She nodded and hugged me, awkward, but real. I'm sorry, Emma, for everything. Especially Christmas. I know now. Prove it, I said simply. When they left, I stood by the window, snow drifting against the city lights. My phone buzzed with a message from Grandma. Proud of you, sweetheart. Sometimes the greatest act of love is saying no. I smiled, remembering the sunrise over the Maldives. Sometimes you have to fly far away to see things clearly at home. And sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all, it's giving someone the chance to change. Even if that chance comes wrapped in legal papers on Christmas Day. Now I want to hear from you. What would you have done in my place? Would you have let things slide again for the sake of family harmony, or drawn the line like I did? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective matters more than you think. To everyone who's ever been called too intense, too dramatic, too much, for standing up for themselves, this story is for you. We're trained to keep the peace even when it costs us our sanity. But here's the truth. Peace without boundaries is just silence in disguise. And silence destroys families faster than arguments ever could. If you've been carrying the burden of fixing everyone else's mess, hear this. Your worth isn't measured by how much chaos you absorb. Sometimes love means saying no. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let people face the consequences of their choices. That's not cruelty, it's accountability. If this story resonates, subscribe and join me on this journey. The next chapter will be bigger than anything you've seen yet. Leave a comment for Chloe. What advice would you give as she begins treatment? And for anyone caught in the cycle of enabling toxic behavior, what's one boundary you've set that changed your life? Remember this: boundaries aren't walls, they're bridges to healthier relationships. And sometimes the only way to protect your peace is to take the hardest step first. Subscribe, share your wisdom, and let's keep this conversation alive, because change always starts when we do.